How do we really know if a scientific discovery is valuable? Is it just about how many times a paper gets cited, or is there something more? Well, today we're going to dig into this really cool new system that's trying to answer that exact question. How do we measure the real-world impact of science? Let's get into it.
Okay, to really get why this is so important, just look at this number. For the 2024-25 fiscal year, the Indian Council of Medical Research, that's the ICMR, is putting over 2,100 crore rupees into research grants alone. I mean, that's a huge investment of public money, right?
So that huge number, it naturally leads to a pretty critical question. With so much money on the line, how do we actually track what we're getting back for it? How can we be sure all that funding is leading to breakthroughs that genuinely improve people's lives? It's not just about accountability, it's about making science itself better.
All right, so people have been trying to crack this nut for a long time. But honestly, it's a real challenge. The tools we have right now for measuring research impact, they're kind of like a maze. You've got these two extremes, and frankly, neither one is perfect.
So on one side, you have these super simple metrics like the H-index. Yeah, it's easy to calculate. It's basically just about your publications and how many times they get cited, but it only shows a tiny, tiny slice of the whole story, just the scientific impact. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got these incredibly detailed systems, like something called the Translational Research Impact Scale, or TRIS. I mean, this thing is comprehensive. It uses 72 different indicators, but because of that, it's so complex and clunky that it's just not practical for routine use. It's too much.
So we're stuck, right? The tools are either way too simple or way too complex. And this is where the ICMR had a real aha moment. They decided, you know what, let's stop trying to juggle dozens of different metrics. Instead, they came up with this idea to create one single currency for all of research. And this is the big idea right here. Just think about it. What if you could convert every single type of research impact? We're talking everything from a published paper to a life-saving new gadget into one universal unit of value, a single currency that lets you compare apples and, well, oranges.
And they gave this new currency a name. It's called the Publication Equivalent, or PE for short. And honestly, it's a beautifully simple idea. The baseline, the starting point, is the most common thing that comes out of research, a paper in a peer-reviewed journal. That is equal to one publication equivalent, one PE. Simple. Everything else is going to be measured against that benchmark.
Okay, so how does this actually work in the real world? Let's break down the ICMR's new system. It's called the Impact of Research and Innovation Scale, or ICMR-IRIS for short. This is where we get to see how different kinds of scientific contributions are actually valued in this new economy. So the IRIS system basically looks at four main areas of impact. First, you've got the publications themselves. That's the obvious one. But then it also values things like patents and new tech, actual changes to public health policy, and the overall scientific influence of the work. It's much broader.
Okay, now this is the really interesting part. This is the heart and soul of the ICMR-IRIS system. Think of it like the official exchange rate for scientific impact. You can see right here how different achievements get assigned different PE values. It's fascinating. Let's walk through a few of the big ones.
All right, so like we said, the baseline is one standard research publication. This is our foundation, and it's worth exactly one PE. Simple enough, right? But this is where things start to get really cool.
Now watch this. See how the value just multiplies when we go from a simple paper to actual property. If a research project leads to a granted patent, that's a real, tangible piece of new intellectual property, the system values that at 5 PEs. That is 5 times more than a standard publication. It's a clear signal that innovation is a huge priority.
And here, this one just brilliantly shows what the system is all about. If your research leads to a real, documented change in a national health guideline, we're talking something that directly impacts how doctors treat patients or how public health is managed across the entire country, that gets valued at a massive 10 PEs. That sends such a powerful message. Research that actually makes it into the real world is what truly matters most. So, you might be thinking, this is a neat idea, but is it just a theory? Nope, this isn't just a concept on a slide. The ICMR is already putting the IRIS system to work. They're using this new currency right now to evaluate projects, entire institutes, and even individual scientists. It's really changing how they think about performance. And just look at how flexible this is. They're using it to evaluate the performance of all 27 of their research institutes. They're using it to assess their external grant programs. They can even calculate a total lifetime PE score for a single researcher. And this is the big one. They're starting to use it to help decide which new research proposals get the funding in the first place.
And really, this quote from the ICMR gets to the very heart of it. The goal here isn't just about grading the past. They say the real potential is to encourage more impactful research in the future. It's brilliant, right? By clearly defining what success looks like, you can actually guide scientists toward doing work that makes a bigger difference. So, here's the bottom line. The ICMR-IRIS system is way more than just a report card for science. It's a genuine attempt to rewrite the rules of the game. And that leaves us with a really big question to think about. If we fundamentally change how we measure success in science, will we end up changing science itself?